Yeah, so basically, I just wanted to firstly ask, obviously, where the concept came from for the film.
Yeah, I was asked to pitch a remake for Silent Night, Deadly Night a couple of years ago, and I came up with this idea, pretty much beat for beat how it is. And the producers, who are the rights holders at that time of Silent Night, Deadly Night, they turned down the script. They thought that, or they turned down the treatment. They thought that it was too different than the original, and the fan base wouldn't like the deviation. And it's like, well, motherfucker, I am the fan base, and I'm telling you, nobody cares about the story. But whatever, that's fine. They let it go, or they let it back to me. And once COVID hit, I was kind of bored, and I realized, this is a fucking original movie. I should just write it. So I wrote it, banged it out, and it got financed really fast. And at twice the budget that I was gonna have to make the Silent Night Deadly Night remake. And it was like beat for beat this movie. So
Yeah,
I was kind of like, I don't know if it would have happened if I wasn't asked to pitch on the remake of Silent Night Deadly Night.
yeah, and in terms of the aesthetic of the film, the way I kind of interpret it, and this might be completely off. It's got this real kind of like punk rock spirit to it, which I think kind of imbues a lot of your work, certainly from the films that I've seen with Bliss and VFW. Um, what was the deviation like between obviously going from a story like VFW, which obviously is a very male centric story, to obviously having a character like Tori, who's obviously a very strong, very a female character with a lot of agency.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to, because VFW was like a very testosterone filled movie, so I kind of wanted to deviate and have a female lead on this one just to switch it up. And the whole aesthetic of the movie is kind of just you know uh from my lifestyle, I guess. I love the way that the movie looks is kind of how I live my. You could see this is my apartment. It's like how it's. I always light everything since I was a teenager, and Tori herself is kind of an extension of me. Holds a lot of my same opinions on stuff, horror movies and all that. And all my other movies, they were kind of very story based or plot based, and this was essentially just a chase movie, a survive the night movie. And I think that it was the first time that I had the opportunity to actually insert characters that were like me into a movie. Bliss kind of had that, but that character was like in a spiral when the movie started, where the character's in a good place. So I got to fulfill my lifelong fantasy of having the main characters in my horror movie be horror fans who are then thrown into a horror situation, and also allowed me places to put all these arguments that I've actually had in my social circle with other people
Yeah.
into a movie. It's not like taking away from the plot. It doesn't seem like it's like random pop culture drops because they live in this world and they work there. It all kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me on to kind of naturally to the next question about there's some real hot takes from certainly from Tori. Are they yours personally then? Because the ones I was thinking of was like Book of Shadows and that's obviously a very polarizing film.
Almost all of her opinions are mine. Book of Shadows is one of mine. I would say that the ones that I don't agree with are I do not think Alien Covenant is the best Alien sequel. And I love Super Unknown, Soundgarden album. But the rest, I will live and die by. And I Pet Cemetery 2, I've spent more than half of my life now trying to convince everybody around me that that movie's a masterpiece. So now I forced every single person who watches my movie to listen to the same diatribe that all of my friends have to hear about how goddamn good Pet Cemetery 2 is. And I hope that I can convince even a half a dozen people to reevaluate and fall in love with Pet Cemetery 2. And I feel like, well, I've done my job.
Yeah, I managed to finally catch Pet Cemetery 2 earlier this year, and I have to agree. I loved it. I thought it was great. It was like the it was the rock and roll sequel that I didn't know I needed to Pet Cemetery.
Yeah, the score. I mean, the songs are amazing. I got a song, the one of my favorite songs from Pet Cemetery 2. I got as the main song on Bliss. Tried to get a couple of other ones. It didn't really work out. I got to put the whole monologue in this. I'm just one day I'll work with Clancy Brown. Hopefully he'll see this and realize that I worship the ground that he walks on. He'll want to do a movie with me. Um, but yeah, not even irony. I think that movie is legitimately fucking great.
Yeah. I mean, the obvious inspiration in terms of the kind of the themes of the story is obviously the Terminator. One kind of thing I did pick up on in terms of because it feels like it has a real action horror element. Is was there any sort of inspiration from anything like the Maniac Cop series that kind of was seeped into Christmas Bloody Christmas?
Not like directly, but I love Maniac Cop 2, and I love movies like that that do kind of, to throw because I love action movies and I love big set pieces, but I love like horror aesthetics, so it's kind of just like a hodgepodge of like wanting to throw that stuff in. And if you have a robot, like I feel like it just lends itself to having action scenes because you're trying to take the thing down in a way that wouldn't necessarily, lend itself to something like a Halloween movie or something like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I love action, sci-fi, and horror. So if I can come up with a concept or a story that is able to blend all three of those, like that's going to be what excites me.
Mm. So in terms of like because of the reason I asked the questions obviously because there's a couple of real fantastic set pieces. I'm thinking particularly that I think there's one with the ambulance when the Santa obviously is chasing the lady and obviously flies through the window. And I was like, that feels like it's plucked out of a Maniac Cop film to me, in a sense because of the way it's kind of unstoppable killer and the kind of yeah, just that was just a thought that kind of ran through my head because I quite gravitate towards them sort of films as well. In terms of like them sort of scenes, is it all kind of stunt work as well, or is there a little bit of mix of CGI as well?
I actually have not had any CG in my movies ever. The only CG I've ever had is wire removal and comping some stuff. But yeah, no, I mean that was all stunt work, and we actually had stunt doubles for both Riley and Abe, who played Santa, for that whole ambulance scene. Um, like when he's hanging on the back and she's driving and he climbs up. But and I was gonna do some rear projection stuff too, just in case we weren't able to work it out. But then we're on the day, and both of them wanted to do all of their own stunts, so our stunt people just sat while they did all their own stunts. Obviously it was a stunt person who like drove through and split the car open, but for the actual chase, like where they're going down the street and he's climbing in, that was all on location, the actual actors, me hanging off the side of a pickup truck next to them with a 16mm camera capturing it. So that was all real deal.
Yeah, that's fantastic. For them sort of instances where actors do say, "I want to do my own stunts," is there a little bit of you like, "Are you sure?"
Oh no, I'm like fuck yeah. I mean, I'll never push them to do it. That's why we had stunt doubles there. But like, I don't want to force them to do it, but I want to give them the option. If they know that they have a stunt double there and they feel safe doing it, and a stunt coordinator is like, yeah, I mean, I'll make sure that they're safe. Like, well, fuck yeah, that's what I want. Because if we did have stunt doubles on those scenes, I would have been able to get tight close-ups where Santa's on the back, like hanging, and then the car that I'm in with the camera zooms and we land on our lead girl like in close-up one shot, like that shit wouldn't exist, and that's like what really helps sell it. And then the back door ripping open and our fucking lead Santa, comes into the camera lens, like I would have been able to get that shot. Would have to do
Yeah.
it low angle so you can see out the window, stuff like that. So yeah, no, I get stoked when they want to do that stuff.
Given as well that obviously we're given fairly minor exposition in terms of basically these are robots that have gone rogue essentially.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought of when the credits roll was like franchise potential. What do you think?
I hope so. I hope it does well because I've got a killer idea for 2 and 3 to do a nice little trilogy.
Oh, great! Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think that was about it for me. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out. I mean, I don't know what time it is where you are. Obviously, it's quite early in the morning here. So yeah, thank you.
It's 2 a almost 2 a.m.
Oh wow, have you been doing this all day then?
No, kind of on and off, like depending on the country. But I work at night. Like, I mean, I'm most creative at night, so I'm up all night. I'm a night owl, so uh, I guess it makes it easier to do international stuff if I'm up all night. So
Yeah.
perfect.
So what's next then? Following this in terms of films?
I'm almost done shooting a really small movie that I started at the beginning of COVID and had to sideline because of the Christmas movie. But we start shooting again Monday. Hopefully, gonna wrap it up before the end of the year. But it's a really gnarly, like psychotropic, 16mm alien abduction, drug fueled hallucinatory splatter movie, starring me. So that'll be the next thing that comes out, and then I'll go back into a hopefully bigger, budget movie, depending on how this one does. Maybe we'll have a sequel next. We'll see.
Well, I certainly hope to not, and I think people are going to be very, very